We welcome you to Homestead Miami Speedway, where it is championship night for the Budweiser Cup Series, the 18th and final race of their sixth season. Two drivers mathematically eligible for championship, but I'll be real, as soon as I show this point standing, it's pretty much a cakewalk. After 17 races have concluded, it is Jack Merkel at the top of the board, 21-point lead over Bryson Baker, with Hector Garcia third place, quite a ways back. Bone Fisher fourth and Shunam at top 5, kind of just staying where they're at for the time being. So 21 points is the difference. So it's basically a Jack Merkel championship, assuming he starts the race this time. So after qualifying, it is Chico Shionome at top of the chart. It's really good for him, with Bone Fisher second, Bryson Baker third, and Lotronor fourth. Only 4 cars who set lap time. Then there's Jackson Brown and Jack Merkel also in this race. Small crowd for tonight, likely because tonight is also the Truck Series who are at Daytona and is looking to wrap up during the race. So that might be a good reason why some of these drivers aren't really wanting to be present, given that the championship's already decided and it's Homestead. Tonight's race is 67 laps and pit lane speed 45 miles per hour. I did look at track guide night and it's what I feared. It's a grippy track with dark grip lanes, but you'll likely see drivers run the top lane because that's where the paint grip is. If you didn't know, paint is very controversial. It allows the tires to be cooled off even when pushing, so it ultimately neutralizes, meaning you can go very long on tires and not have the skill set needed to save, as opposed to asphalt or even concrete. And what's not helping with this version, as Ryzen Baker's freaking dead. Low tire heat and wear, they're both 0.78 and 0.72 respectively, with a tire fall off of 18%. So around 1 second of fall off from the start to the finish. Could really vary depending on track to track. So happy hour currently ongoing. I did a bit of math and I just, yeah, like I said, it's a Merkle championship. All he realistically has to do is start the race, because first place gives you 50 points and 6th place is 32 points less. So it's not out of the question with Bryson Baker, but I don't know. Merkel will have to blow up or something to Bryson Baker to win the championship. Currently 2 minutes left in happy hour, so I think they're waiting on Jack Merkel because he's currently AFK. He hasn't set a lap time in qualifying and hasn't really said anything. So, while there's nothing much to talk about regarding this season, before the race, I guess I'll mention stuff for season 7. The Budweiser Cup Series will be switching mods. They're currently using a mixture of COTs and NNC07. And come season 7, they'll be switching over to SNG05 mods. SNG05 cars, so a couple of years backwards to the clock. So that should provide a little bit more accuracy in terms of hitboxes. I might as well say this too, since, well, there's nothing else to talk about. I do plan on broadcasting the entirety of Season 7. No guarantee I'll be at every race, but I do intend on making every race for Season 7, broadcasting every single one of them. So that should be exciting. Much like BPNR, I will have their dedicated graphics, tickers, all that fun stuff. Get a bit of creativity. Good chance for me to give the small leagues like this one a bit of shine. Get a chance to spotlight while Cheese Food Media streams their usual suspects of Gnarl and Essex also on Friday nights. Bit later on, but I was considering streaming 150, but after the hassle that was Bluegrass in Talladega, like a month or two ago, I don't want to deal with that hassle again. So, great time. And it's going to be hopefully something, at very minimum. Going to
Drivers, start your engines.
quickly fix my cams. So only 6 cars for tonight, but hopefully they can keep it clean regardless. 6 cars in 3 rows. 67 laps ahead of us here in Miami, Florida. And it's going to see the pace car headed. It is Shinonome and Owen Fisher on the front row as they will lead us to the green flag championship night at Budweiser. And it's, yeah, it is Shinonome. He ran practice with the 43 car. That's why I got a bit confused. Near contact already between the two championship rivals. Rice and Baker trying to stay off Bowen Fisher nearly gets collected by Jack Merkel. Look at this bonsai move to the inside as they're going to complete that one. Bowen Fisher doesn't lead, or I don't know, the game scored him. So Bowen Fisher narrowly leads the opening lap if Rice and Baker and Laura Trenor into the wall, and Trenor is spinning, and so is Rice and Baker. 2 single car spins. So they're separate wrecks, no caution for the time being. A little bit out for second now between Shinonome and Merkel. So Rice and Baker's little miracle run to win the championship is already off to a bad start. As Merkel claps the wall sideways, trying to keep it straight, and out of 3 drivers that hit the wall, only one of them has been able to save the car and remain within the lead pack. And it is Bowen Fisher who currently pulls away. 3 laps completed so far, not missing too much. As these two have gathered back up, haven't seen a pit yet. Those tires had to be worn after spinning out like that. Maybe for Trenor as Jackson Brown in 21 car nearly hits the wall, and Burko is spinning, hits the inside wall hard. That'll be the 3rd self-spin so far, but only 4 laps in. And that will be a caution for hitting the self-spin counter. Bowen Fisher wins the race back. Shinonome 2nd, Jackson Brown 3rd. Going to see what happened here between these two. Merkel behind Brown, and they head into turn 1 and 2. Brown hits the wall, and I think Merkel just did his best to stay off him, but ultimately just couldn't control the car any further. I just want those avoidances where you gotta sacrifice the car to do them. Quick on board with Merkel as pit lane has been opened this time around. So early damage to the championship leader, and it's going to be Bowen Fisher at minimum, but looks like everyone's going to come in. Fair play. Going to be 4 tires probably. Makes the one-stop strategy a bit easier to negotiate for the remainder of this race, assuming it goes green the rest of the way. Everyone has found the pit box and looks... I'm going to quickly fix this as everyone looks to be taking 4 tires here. It's going to be Bryson Baker who wins up pit lane, with Bowen Fisher coming out second, Shinomi third, Chanora fourth, Brown fifth, and Merkel sixth. So all 6 cars remain in the race. And I definitely saved the back half of the field where it was self-spin saga for Trenor, Baker, and Merkel, the 3 cars that contributed to the spin cannon being activated to trigger this first caution period. We are going green this time, and it's going to be quite some control method. So what was a 67 lap race is toned down to a 61 lap race, thanks to this caution period. And it is green flag, Bryson Baker on the throttle, and we are back underway at Homestead. Already a challenge for third, Large Runner got great jump from the 4th place spot, is going to try to get by Shinome, and they will do just that. Well, the bobble out to Tranor barely stacked the wall, but it was enough to cause a bit of a stack as Shinome had to barely tap her, and as a self spin for Jackson Brown towards the back. But apart from that, everyone reverts back to single file racing, with Bowen Fisher back at the top of the ship, the captain, if you will. And Jackson Brown has made it back to the pits. I've overheard from the Discord communications that he is going to park it for the night. So, not really helping the case in attendance, but to be fair, most people have already opted to watch the truck race, so it's kind of a given. If you're already doing bad, you might as well just quit now. Save yourself the trouble when there's nothing really to do. And that is confirmed retiree for Jackson Brown, leaving 5 cars out on the track. So yeah, with that, Jack Merkel currently sits in 5th. That gives you 30 points, as opposed to first place getting 50. And that's just accounting, and that's not accounting bonus points either. So currently, Merkel could just ride around and just win the championship that way. and but still win by. Now, it could be. I don't know yet, but Bryson Baker did lead a lap actually, so that does help him. So, and neither of them on pole. So currently, Brian Fisher has the most laps led, leading all but one lap so far. So that means at the current running, Merkel will win the championship. But if Bryson Baker were to overtake and go on to win the race, it'll be Baker's championship. At least if my math is correct. I could be wrong. Not always the best mathematician. Oh, it's gotta get too close to the wall for Baker. He saves it. But that would really hinder his championship now. That's going to see the 24 car back in front of him. And that's not what Baker needed. He already had trouble on the opening stint. And yeah, now it's just gotten worse. I'm actually going to look back in an incident. And if I can go back to it. I'm gonna have to do this then. I'm actually gonna take you with far chase just to give you a better idea of what happened to Baker. So right here, there's a thing with NR. It's that when there's like a pixel or two where it doesn't consider it as a grip lane. So what ultimately happened was he got too close to the wall and he caught that snag that's unfortunately present in NR when building tracks. That's just something you can't fix, and there's no grip, nothing. So you're going to ultimately spin from this, and that's why at tracks like Homestead, you can't be too close to the wall, otherwise it's just gonna go spinning around. So while we were away, in the replay, is Jack Merkel, who has occupied the third place spot, taking it away from Chico Shinonome, and now has his sights set on Lower Trinor, running the if I can speak correctly, Mizume Toyota for this championship race. You usually see her in the Dr. Pepper Dodge machine, but opted not to run it with the Dodge Brigade this final race. Bob Fisher, dominant performance so far, leading all but 2 laps. Currently lap 18 of 67. And it looks to be an exchange for second if Merkel could make the pass. Side by side down the front stretch. And unable to make the move that time, he has to back out. Bit of warping from Merkel, but no one's really close enough to be a problem. See Merkel right in the bottom as that's not where the paint lane is. I did mention during the build previous we had it's actually on top lane, and because that Merkel didn't have enough grip to make the corner, smacks them all, and that allowed Chico Shinonome to get back into the third position, or as is at least trying to clear 24, but unable to do so. So while the battle for third ensues, Trenor is trying to find time on Bull and Fisher. It was a 378 last time by, and versus a 482 for Fisher. Both of them running in the 30s. Well, everyone is. And it is Trenor gaining 1/10 that time by, but Merkel gained 2/10 on that 2 car until he smacked the wall. Rising Baker the only car off pace at the moment, having set 31-second lap times after losing the draft due to the spin or self spin that he saved, but it was still enough to make him lose the draft. Right here, you see the difference between middle and top. Merkel on the top lane has a better run off the corner and got to Trenor, but unable to make a peek his nose out, if you will. At that time, he tried to make a low lane move towards the middle, but unable to use that momentum because Trenor was ready to hit the wall. Merkel responded by letting up the throttle. Now with a bit of a diamonding, he is now going to have the speed to make an overtake using the outside lane through turns 1 and 2, and he is going to move up to P2. We also see a bit of diamonding off Bull Fisher, the current race leader. And usually diamonding is, I want to say frowned upon, but it's not the best idea too if Tyra is demanding. As far as I could tell from the track guide, that Tyra is pretty low, so overall, maybe diamonding could be the better move, but that doesn't mean you could do it every lap. You still can conserve your tires to get the best amount of grip possible from the start to finish of your stints before your pit stops. Marco has been reeling in Fisher slowly but surely, and ideally you would want to be in the lead before pit stops. About ready to hit the halfway point here in the Budweiser Cup Series Championship race from Homestead Miami Speedway. You're currently on board with championship leader Jack Merkel as he sets sights for the race lead. His rival Bryson Baker said anything but a clean day so far. Had 2 self spins early on and is currently right around the 5th place. But it's already a 21-point deficit to Merkel heading into this race. But yeah, 2/10 or 1.5 hundredths of a second, if I can speak correctly. Closer to 2/10, I'll say that. But regardless, Merkel has reeled in Fisher near identical lap times that time by, as the closer you are, dirty air becomes more prevalent. So Merkel's gonna have to find speed, and speed he shall get out of turn 2, and he's going to peak his nose through turns 3 and 4. Oh no, but Bowen Fisher goes around. It's going to get split by Trenor and Fisher, but Bowen Fisher spins from the lead currently only the second car to spin, so no caution right now. But we need one more self-spin to cause a caution, I believe. So unfortunately, Blood Fisher's gonna have to tip off the pit cycle, and also, unfortunately, I don't think he's gonna have to do quite a bit of saving to make to the checker flag, as it is currently lap 31, well 32 for the leader. So that's 35 laps Blood Fisher is gonna have to do on those set of tires. But my main concern is fuel, because assuming you just do regular race pace, you go 33 laps, so 2 laps isn't the biggest deficit of, it isn't a stretch, but it's going to be slowing him down even further than what he already had just accomplished a couple laps ago. For second ensues with Tranor on the inside. Shinonome outside, but it looks like Tranor is going to clear for second place. We have just breached the halfway point at Homestead Miami Speedway, where the champion will be crowned after the next 33 laps. Jack Merkel has inherited the race lead and is looking to win the championship, with Tranor second, Shinonome third, Bryson Baker fourth. Bowen Fisher fifth, one lap down after making an early pit stop due to a self-spin. And the only retirement so far is from the 21 car of Jackson Brown. Battle for second has separated a little bit, and they're down to 31 seconds, so the tire fall off has kicked in, at least a few laps ago, probably. Down to 31.01 for Jack Merkel last time by 31.106 for Tranor, and 31.4 for Shinonome. And we're looking at one caution so far, that being triggered on lap 4 by a self-spin spin count requirements. Speed cars for tonight. 3 self-spins will trigger a caution. It has to be 3 unique people to trigger a caution. Field has been shrunk out quite a bit, and we're still due for the remaining 4 cars to make their pit stop. Just the only thing I can mention is the communications in Discord is regarding to truck race. It's just unfortunate timing, but it is what it is. Stuff is bound to happen in online racing. We've had a 2-month off season for NASCAR, the real NASCAR that is, and it's just going to be quite a doozy to try to negotiate interest for having to go online racing in NR2003 versus watching the professionals do their work. On pit lane is Laura Tranor from second place, and so is Jack Merkel, both of them pitting on the same lap. And currently, Shinonome is only car to stay up, with Bryson Baker also joining this group of 2. Four tires for all of these cars, but it looks to be too far to the left side for Bryson Baker, meaning he cannot get the left side tires to go on because he's too close to the pit lane. or pit lane wall where the pit crews would jump off of. You also see Shinonome. And an extremely long pit stop for Baker, and he's gonna use that little trick. He's gonna back it up, and hopefully not too far. And he's going to pull back into the pits. Pit stall if his crew can work. Here he goes. So that's something. That's something that can be used. Ideally, if you are going to do it, just ensure that no pit lane traffic is coming your way. So this is just a nightmare night for Vice and Baker, having to have a miracle drive to win a championship against Jack Merkle, and after 2 self spins and an abysmally long pit stop, she's guaranteed out the window, leaving Jack Merkle with a comfy race lead and an easy championship fight on top of that. So Bone Fisher pitted 10 laps ago, back up to second, still behind Jack Merkle. So let's be giving Chico Shionome an easy podium place, I believe. No, Chanoa's third for the time being, actually, but we do have our second retirement, that being Bryson Baker beating Jack Merkle is your season 6 champion of the Budweiser Cup Series. We still have 25 more laps to complete before we can see him in victory lane. Von Fisher has closed in a little bit. I did see a little bit ago last time I checked in on them. There was a 4/10 difference in lap time in Fisher's favor. So Bowen has been keeping the pressure on Merkle, but Merkle knows likely that Bum Fisher is in a huge deficit in terms of tires. 10 lap older tires for Fisher compared to... No, my bad. It is 5 lap faster tires for Merkle in this case. So it isn't a big difference if you're blind to the naked eye, but now the pyros kick in, tire heat rather. Fisher just pushed them a little too hard, overheated the tire, and they're just not going to provide any more grip until Fisher finds a way to cool them off again. Battle for third, and Shionome rallied his way back up to Trenor. And let there be a near incident in between 3 and 4, I believe. Let's see here. I don't look to be too Shinonome clean is loose, but not loose enough to really warrant a replay, not gonna lie. Well, let's be Trenor able to defend her podium place pretty well against Shinonome with that topside momentum and grip at her side. Currently a 6/10 difference between Merkle and Fisher, but Fisher is starting to slip back with the older tires and currently being abuse done his race car. That's honestly the best way to put it. He's been pushing this entire time ever since his early pit stop, his unscheduled pit stop at that, and Merkel is just smooth sailing ever since. I'm going to keep my eye on this battle for third. It was close in lap times between these two this the last time around, and now this time it looks to be even closer. So Shinome does have speed, just needs to find a way around that 2 car. How much longer can you stare at a horse girl? He's been peeking his nose to the bottom lane, but unable to get the momentum up. I think if I were him, I would try the middle lane just to at least get better speed to get stay side by side at very minimum. And the gap has expanded quite massively since the last time we checked in at the top 2. It is 2 seconds between Merkel and Fisher. And it's just the unfortunate product of gripped up tracks, especially at Homestead, with the progressive banking already built into it. It's much harder to make passes, especially. I mean, you already know that the outside is going to be dominant. You need a way around him. And if everyone's going to be running the fastest way around the track, which is the top lane, it ultimately devolves into a Monaco race. You can't make a move. You cannot make a move. You can't do anything. And your best method of overtaking is through pit stops. Gonna be a near spin from Jack Merkel, the race leader. Oh, it's too close to the wall, much like we saw with Ryzen Baker, but he keeps it on the wall. Oh, caution. And he's going to spin again. Much like in the same fashion. So, no caution. Actually, they changed their mind. Because Merkel didn't completely go around, but that will demote him down to second 2 laps in a row where he got too close to the wall right around here and had to correct the car both times, ultimately losing him 6 seconds worth of time. So I suppose Merkel is back on an even playing field with Fisher at minimum, due to his tires being used to save the car. But now he's found himself back in second after re-overtaking Lower Trenor, and he's gonna have to set sights on Bone Fisher to cap off the year with the race win as well as the championship. He already has one of them, but he would like the other on top of it. 30.4 last time for Merkel is 31-1 for Bone Fisher. That is not ideal, but at the same time, as soon as I see that Merkel hits the wall out turn 4, putting him at a 31.0 second lap time and back down to 4. So now it opens the door for everyone as we have breached 10 to go. Gonna have a battle for the lead, Lord Trenor to the inside. Trenor's gonna be going to lead her first lap of the race, and it comes very late. Merkel finds speed through the apex of turn spot 2, looks inside, still side by side down the back stretch. And Bowen Fisher, but the much older tires compared to the rest of the field that's still on track. He is unable to defend P2. And now it's Shunomi's turn to take a crack for third place against Fisher. But we've seen Shunomi struggle to get by Trenor, but this time Fisher aids Shunomi in the exit of turn 2 via smacking the wall. Got 7 laps to go as they hit the line. Jack Merkel still has speed, and despite the right side of his car being caved in, he still has a chance to win this race. Shunomi, after getting by Fisher, is slipping back from the top 2. We're gonna be a Bowen Fisher pit stop late into the go lane. I did fear that that 12 car was not going to make to the end of the race with that early pit stop on lap 31 after a self spin. Merkel using every inch of racetrack to find any kind of momentum against Trenor. And not quite clear yet. Trenor is going to have speed on the outside. 5 laps to go. Still between these two, but Merkel has left the door open after nearly self-spinning twice. He got too close to the wall and had to save the car both times in succession. Shunomi 3/10 slower compared to Merkel, but now Merkel is actually 2/10 slower than Shunomi, but likely that's due to having to make, or at least attempt to make an overtake on Laura Trenor for the race win, as we're about to hit 3 to go. And ultimately, if Trenor is able to just keep the high side, she might be able to nab up a win here. A nice way to cap off the 6th season of Budweiser Cup Series competition. And Merkel smacked the wall. That's not going to help his cause to triumph his championship run with another race win. 2 laps to go this time round. So Merkel's gonna have to try to use this first of 2 laps to get close enough to Trenor and use that final lap to make the overtake. A bonsai move is potentially in the works. As we hit the line, final lap in Season 6 Budweiser Cup Series. It is Trenor versus Merkel. And they'd be dead even out of 2. Merkel's gonna have one more chance here into turn 3. Is going to be to the inside. Trenor leaves the door open. It's going to be side by side towards the line. And it's going to be dead even at the line. But Laura Trenor looks to be the winner at Homestead. I did predict it was going to be bonsai move, but it was just Not just barely not enough for Jack Merkel, but he can still be appreciative that Tronor actually put up a really good fight towards the concluding laps of this race. It's gonna be a dual burnout for tonight. Laura Tronor, your race winner in the Uma Musume car, as she gets punted towards the pits. But it's Jack Merkel, your Season 6 NASCAR Budweiser Cup Series champion. Oh, looks to be only a Jack Merkel burnout because Tronor has already got out of the car. But we get the champions burnouts. Of the races I did broadcast here, it's really fun to watch, and Jack Merkel still proved to be the top of the class. Oh, alright. Guess I gotta go here now. So, it'll be Jack Merkel coming out just short of winning the race out. Homestead with Laura Tronor getting her win to cap off the year. Chico Shunem is third, Bolton Fisher fourth after having an early pit stop, and ultimately a second one, costing him a lead lap finish. Rising Baker P2 in the championship, not not the day he wanted, and just a nightmare scenario during the race. And sixth place was Jackson Brown after 2 self spins. So coming up tonight on in the NR2003 online sphere, currently live is Cheesefood Media, who will be broadcasting the championship race with Las Vegas being their season finale. Saturday, tomorrow, will be OSCC Championship Night at Michigan. That starts at 7:55. And DSRA with their penultimate race at Martinsville. That will begin at 9:30. So, great job, Jack Merkel, winning the championship. And honestly, I'm worn out. I might watch the truck race to see how that concludes. Next time I broadcast will be Tuesday for the BPNR qualifying races that bet NR Daytona duels to set majority of the grid for next Friday's activities for BPNR's Daytona 125. So until then, I shall see you next time.